Folks, they say you can't bring Democrats and Republicans together and have civil discourse. Well, we're going to disprove that right now. Joined by Phil Alagia, who's a Democratic strategist. Yes, he admits it. And also, he's the chief of staff in Essex County to the Essex County executive. Check out our interview with Joe DiVincenzo, the Essex County executive. And Mike DuHaime, our longtime friend, a Republican strategist and partner at Mercury. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you guys.
A civil and spirited discourse. Phil, let's start with this. How would you rate President Biden's rollout of the vaccine to date at the end of March? This will be seen later. How's it going?
It's going great. I mean, he's hit his goals. We're well over 1 million vaccines a day. Everyone's telling me every week we're getting more and more vaccines produced. More and more Americans are getting vaccinated. We're well on our way to herd immunity in over 70%. He got in just in time to fix the mess that was there behind him.
And by the way, let me just say that I was, in fact, vaccinated with Moderna vaccine, first and second, along with my mom in Essex County. And you can see that interview with Joe D. And we talked about the importance of having an organized rollout. Let me ask you, Mike, how much do you think President Biden has changed the course of not just the approach of the country, the attitudes of the country about COVID, but also on the vaccine acceptance end?
Well, I think he certainly helped in terms of, the leadership he's provided and the encouragement he gives. But I think President Trump, and I've been one who's unafraid to speak the truth when I disagree with President Trump, which has been often. But I think it actually clouds all the chaos that he has caused around himself, and certainly everything around the Capitol riot and so much other stuff has actually clouded what probably was his greatest accomplishment, which was Operation Warp Speed, to make sure that the pharmaceutical companies had the backstop that they needed to throw everything into R&D and actually bring a vaccine out in what is incredible speed. It's a medical marvel that the vaccines have come out so fast and they're being produced and distributed. And they're great New Jersey companies like J&J and Merck who are a big part of this. But when President Trump was saying that we were going to have a vaccine by December, most people didn't believe him because it was hard to believe a lot of the stuff he said. It actually was one of his great accomplishments. And I don't know if people will reflect on him differently in history because of it, but I think the Biden administration is doing a good job taking it from there. But they wouldn't be able to do anything if the vaccines hadn't been produced. And quite frankly, President Trump deserves some credit for that.
But Phil, I want to follow up on that. Recent poll, I think the Pew poll showed that over 50% of Republican men say, no, not taking it. I don't care. And I don't care what anyone says. That's a problem. Phil, what needs to be done to communicate to those, not just in the Republican Party, but in the African-American community as well, who are resistant to the vaccine, based on the science? Because it's not political. It's not based on who you voted for in 2020. It's based on the science. Phil, go ahead.
First of all, I agree with Mike. It's an amazing, I thought about this the other day. It's an amazing accomplishment that we now have 3 vaccines that are, almost 95 to 100% effective in preventing death. And we got it so quick. And the Trump administration, the last 6 months, should be commended for it. But I do think the problem, Mike and Steve, is that this whole vaccine, the whole COVID issue became political, right? Mask wearing, if you were a Republican, you didn't wear a mask, or you shouldn't wear a mask. If you're a Democrat, Trump almost made it seem weak that if you wore a mask, you were weak. And I think that all that rhetoric has caused this vaccine, people who feel I'm a Trump loyalist or I'm a Trumper, I should not get the vaccine because I need to stand tall. We need to.
But Trump got the vaccine, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to stand tall. We need Trump, and we need all Republicans. We need the governors in Republican counties. We need former president, everyone. We need in the African-American community. It's one thing to hear from an elected official or a politician to say, go out and get vaccinated, but they need to hear from their pastors, their community leaders, the people that they work with. I think everyone needs to move forward. It's a personal choice, and people should make that choice not based on fear or worry, but some people may choose not to take it. But it certainly shouldn't be a political decision, not whether or not you take the vaccine.
Mike, your word to your friends in the Republican Party about the vaccine, because herd immunity does not happen without all of us being a part of this. But again, I respect people's right to make a decision, but what is it based on is another question. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would say go get it. I'm going to get vaccinated as soon as I can, and I encourage everyone else to do so. And I'm encouraging family and friends to do it as soon as they possibly can. I think it's the right thing to do. President George W. Bush has come out with President Obama to say get vaccinated. Governor Christie obviously has talked about his battle with COVID as to try to encourage people to get vaccinated. So I'm 100% for it. Obviously, if there are reasons not to get vaccinated, that should be made in consultation with your doctor based on any medical issues that you may have, not based on what you heard from President Trump. I agree with Phil about mask wearing. Not only was it from a healthcare point of view silly, it was politically stupid to make mask wearing some sort of political litmus test, because I think ultimately it hurt him politically, because ultimately it hurt the country from a healthcare point of view, and that ultimately was used against the president when he ran.
Mike, let's bring it closer to home. Phil, I want you on this as well. Your assessment, Mike DuHaime, of Governor. By the way, check out Mike. He joined us on our sister program, Lessons in Leadership, for a conversation about crisis communication and leadership. Mike, assess Governor Murphy's leadership in the last year plus on COVID.
I think
what has he done well? What hasn't he done well?
I would think, for the most part, I think he's done well in terms of making difficult decisions and explaining them and having access to the public. I think a couple of things that his reelection, in my opinion, will rise and fall based on his COVID response. I mean, people like the three of us, right? We pay attention to every little thing that goes on in Trenton. Most people are not. This is the one thing that people are judging him on. So I think right now in the spring, people are grading him very well. His numbers are good for the most part. People think positively, but they're going to be voting in the fall. And I think the ultimate decision will be made where there are frustrations on whether or not kids are back in school. We have school districts that have been out now for a year, and I think that's unacceptable to many parents. And I think they expect, even though the decisions are made locally, because there's a big population density difference between Cumberland County and Hudson County, but I think they want the governor to use the bully pulpit to get more kids back in school. And certainly Jack Ciattarelli is going to talk about nursing homes as well. And certainly obviously the death rate was very high, unfortunately, in New Jersey when this first came on, and that was a part of it. So I think for the most part, the governor is seen as well, having done well. But in the fall, the unemployment rate and whether or not kids are back at school are going to be the two determining factors.
By the way, Mike DuHaime mentions Jack Ciattarelli, the likely Republican candidate for the governorship. We will have him on as well. Phil, Governor Murphy done well. Where fallen short on COVID?
When you look at where we are in the country with vaccines, the percent of our population getting vaccinated, we are in the top part of the country. We are in that dark green area if you look at the maps, which means right now, when I last checked, we're at 27% of our population is vaccinated, which is, the top 10% in the country. We're doing much better than New York and Pennsylvania and Delaware, our bordering states. So that's something that I think the governor is going to really take credit for, as he should, for getting the vaccines and working with all the local localities to get it out and distributed. I know in Essex County, we want even more vaccines because we want to vaccinate our public. So I think you're absolutely right now, Mike. Right now, he's an overwhelming favorite to win re-election, not only for his, COVID response, but for the great job he's done in the last 4 years. We are a Democratic, we are a blue state. He is an incumbent, and he's done actually a very good job with our COVID response, from food distribution to finances to right now the vaccine rollout. I do think you need a significant reason to not re-elect an incumbent, and there's nothing that I see that would prevent him from getting re-elected in November.
Mike, give me 10 seconds or less on Governor Murphy and small business in the state with COVID.
I think there's a lot of frustration right now. And as I said, the unemployment rate is still high. The last time a Democrat didn't get elected, which I was involved in, the unemployment rate was very high. Ultimately, that's what mattered most to the people. So if small businesses don't come back, I do think it could be a problem for the governor.
Phil, you get the last word.
Listen, I'm on the NJEDA under Governor Murphy's leadership. We've implemented a lot of new programs. I think the whole country is having issues because of COVID, but New Jersey's leading the way under his leadership. And once we get COVID under control, small businesses and the business community and unemployment will be taken care of.
By the way, Phil makes mention to the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Check out our interview with Tim Sullivan recently on this. Phil, Mike, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Steve Adubato. Stay with us. We're right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by TD Bank, Johnson & Johnson, Summit Health, NJM Insurance Group, New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the New Jersey Education Association, United Airlines, and by Operating Engineers, Local 825. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and by New Jersey Monthly.
I'm Miles, and this is what I work for. To be my best for them and for me, in body and in mind. I need a health insurer that helps me get the care I need for both. That has mental health professionals that I can talk to when I need to. Because when I feel strong and secure, so do they. This is my life. And this is how Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey works for me.